Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Practical EdTech Creativity Conference. Welcome back to some of you, and welcome to the first session for some of you as well. Tonight, we have Denise Wright, who will be presenting her presentation about simple wearable electronics. I'm actually really excited about this one myself. I'll be taking notes in my notebook, my physical notebook, and I'd encourage you to do the same. So her presentation is simple wearable electronics, including pedometers, smartwatches, and even a jean jacket that can play music. Everyday people can use some sort of wearable electronics, and she'll also be talking about microbits. Now, a little bit more about Denise. She's taught online and face-to-face in STEM education for more than 22 years, is a member of the ISTE NSTA Technology Advisory Board, and volunteers for NASA as a solar system ambassador, amongst many other things that she does. And I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I'll be taking notes myself. A couple of quick housekeeping things before I turn it over to Denise. Number one, please use the Q&A panel in GoToWebinar. It should be in your, for most people, it's in the bottom right corner. There's a Q&A panel there, and just to see if everyone can use it, let's just pop into that Q&A panel and say hello and where you're checking in from. Just use that quick little Q&A and just say, where you're from, where you're watching from tonight. We've got a Calgary. We got a whole bunch of places coming in here. Cool. Awesome. So thanks so much. Portsmouth, Virginia. We got another one just popped in there. Fantastic. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. We got another one just popped in. We've got California. Janet checking in from California. Fantastic. All right. So let's take a look at one other quick little housekeeping item here, and that is everything you see is being recorded. So if you're like me and you have to run away because your child has spilled some milk in the background, don't worry about it. It's all being recorded. The recordings will be available on my YouTube channel. They'll also be available on Practical EdTech later this week. So if you miss something, you'll be able to go back and get it. But again, please feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote Denise to be the presenter. Just give me 1 second here. And I'm going to make her the presenter, and you'll see her screen happening in just one moment. Be just a little bit of lag here while we swap over.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you and we see your screen, so we're ready to go. And it's all you, Denise.
Okay, great. Hi everyone, my name is, thanks for the introduction, Richard. I'm really excited to be here. I've been a fan of Practical EdTech for years. My name is Denise Wright, and I am located in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about wearable electronics, that simple ones that you can use and put together with your students, and even we'll get a little bit more complicated if you are interested in going that route, but I'll just talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've done at my school. Again, as Richard said, I'm a STEM teacher. I've been online for teaching STEM for about 22 years. I've done an online learning, and I'm back. This is my 3rd year back in the classroom in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Also, something else really cool, that telescope that you see there. I'm a very big person that's passionate about astronomy, and I piloted that telescope. It's an Alpha Clark refractor in a distance learning environment. So that telescope could actually hook in live to schools all across our state, and we're able to look at the night sky and as well as the sun, so it's pretty awesome as well. I do a lot with NASA. I'm a big fan of everything space. I've been to see Parker Solar Probe launch at Kennedy Space Center. I'm looking forward to the rover going up as well this summer. So I follow NASA quite a bit, and I also present on their behalf too. So, and I'm hoping to make it out to ISTE in Anaheim this coming summer. So I'm really excited about that. So thank you everybody for having me here. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got into wearable electronics with my students, and a little bit about, why we sort of did that. We sort of did this. Basically, we talked about wearable electronics in my classroom because we wanted to learn about how basic electronics function. So that was really a great way to meet that standard. It was a great introduction to coding and physical computing. Obviously, this is the creativity conference, so we're going to foster great creativity and critical thinking skills with this as well. In addition to that, we have students using their soft skills and using and collaborating with one another. And some of these wearable technology things that we're going to talk about tonight, again, many of them are middle school, but some of them can be upgraded to high school, some even elementary. We use them to solve real world problems. My students actually are a state finalist for the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. They decided to think of an idea of using artificial intelligence to develop a facial recognition system. So we'll find out more later in the month on that. So I really encourage that with students, is trying to not just make, but also trying to push them in the direction of solving a problem with possibly what they make. And we do have a very big technology fair in my district. Over 2,000 projects show up at our convention center, K-12. This year we're adding an esports expedition and a drone obstacle course. I have students that come to my classroom, they put projects together, I'm there to assist them, and they go out to the technology fair and present. So some of this actually comes from that as well, because my students come up with these ideas and, something really innovative and neat to take these technology fairs. One of the first things I'm going to talk about today is, we can advance my slides here, hang on, is LEDs. Okay, that obviously is one of the most easiest things to make wearable electronics with. There's a lot of teachable things with LEDs. Obviously, you talk about the anode on the LED as well as the positive end, and it's longer than the cathode. So you could talk about the actual structure of the LED and that, what it causes, how does it light. And in this case, obviously we're going to get it to light with the watch battery. And you can't see me this evening, I don't think I have camera on, but I have some wearable LED earrings on right now. And a big question is, well, how did you make those, or how did our students go about making those? So basically, this is our process. We have some LED lights. Okay, and we have some materials that you could actually buy solder, like a roll of solder on Amazon for about 10 bucks. You could obviously strip wire, that works as well. We have a coin cell battery, and we have basically, you get those at Michael's, the earring sort of clips and the jump rings to actually hold the LED battery. So that's what, basically very simple supplies. You only need a couple dollars literally to put these LED earrings together. And obviously there's some learning going on there, because we're talking about why does the LEDs light up, talking about the positive and negative ends, and all that, and sort of our creativity showing, because we're thinking about, how are we going to construct this so that when I put these earrings on, they're going to light up all the time. So really simple enough. You're going to obviously put the LED over the watch battery, just like so, and making sure that they light up. So we want to test that to make sure that we've got the right, sides line up, and you'll see the LEDs light up like so. Okay. And then the next step we're basically going to do is we're going to get a soldering pen or a piece of it. It sort of looks like a pencil, but it's a piece of metal that you plug in. It reminds you of a pencil. It gets very hot, and if you are working with middle school students, you may want to be have a soldering station where the students come up to you, because obviously the soldering station is going to get very hot. If you're with high school students, they may be a little bit better at soldering. So you can see right there how we just took a piece of solder and soldered those connections together. And you want to obviously solder the LEDs on the positive side. So that's going to allow you to pop that battery in between those wire anodes and cathodes, and then be able to remove the battery so that you could wear it. Also, you could add some solder there to that jump ring at the top, that circle piece that you see holding the clip. Now that's obviously set up so it could hold really well. I mean, I've actually tried to do it like holding it in my hand before too as well. It's a little bit tricky, but you definitely want to, you know, solder that on as well. And once you do that in between, I don't have the next picture, sorry, but you basically are going to insert that watch battery in between. You're going to put that, the actual hook for the earring in there on that jump ring, and there you go. You have a pair of great LED earrings. And so what I said was, I know this is Wearable Electronics, but obviously another great project that I've done, you know, as we're getting towards Christmas time, and, you know, you need that end of the year project before we send them off for Christmas break. You know, what can we do with our students to, you know, really keep them engaged and entertained? And obviously you could see Lily there. She actually made an LED card. You can see how we used very simple, probably you could make a whole set of LED cards for probably about 10 or 15 bucks for all your classes probably in the day. All you need is that watch battery, LEDs, and that copper tape. And Lily there made up a great card there, You Light Up My Life. So again, lots of great projects with LEDs, and those are two that I have that have been successful and lots of fun. And again, I'm wearing my LED earrings this evening. So those are some things with LEDs. Two other tools that we've also used for wearable electronics. One is called a MicroBit. Many people are probably at this point familiar with MicroBit. It is also known as a microcontroller. It is definitely can make so many amazing things with it. You know, I myself as a teacher actually entered a contest where I made a soil moisture sensor, and I actually won first place with that. So you could program that MicroBit to do lots of different things. There are two types of platforms that you can actually program it with, this is called the Microsoft MakeCode Editor. So if you click New Project, what's nice about this is if you are in middle school, just teaching and introducing to coding, you obviously have these drag and drop blocks that you can click out and create your project. So that is available, but then you could also click here on this JavaScript, and when you click JavaScript, it actually shows you the code. So a lot of times when I'm teaching my middle school students about coding and about putting, you know, what it means, I'll try to explain to them that under the hood of those blocks is some real legitimate coding. And sometimes my students will even get to the point where they'll drag the blocks in and then try to actually type this code in here. I really encourage them to, you know, try to type coding in, get practice with that. To me, I think out of the languages, I don't know how many of you teach computer science or work with middle school students, but I like Python the best because it also shows you errors very easily. So here's another one. Here's the Python editor. This is sort of my favorite one that I like to use because I have students that want to be challenged a little bit more and say, hey, I want to start typing real coding in. So we do use this editor as well. And, you know, you could also talk about syntax. You know, while true, we're celebrating Hour of Code and Computer Science Week. So we talk about loops. We talk about why this is all indented. We talk about the idea of these parentheses and the quotation marks, and, you know, instead of removing hello world, let's get it to scroll your name and things like that. And then to get that to transfer to your MicroBit, you're just going to click download. When you download, you'll see the program download to your computer, Chromebook, Mac OS. It doesn't matter which device you're using. and then you'll open up your files and just drag it right into the device will show up, MicroBit will show up, and you'll just drag it in and it'll actually flash to your device. So it works pretty easily. It's pretty intuitive. This device here is called a circuit playground. It also can be programmed with a bunch of different platforms. One is called Arduino IDE. If you ever used an Arduino for making, that's another a platform you can use, a little bit more advanced. I would say probably a little bit more on your high school, for your high school students. The make code again that I just showed you for the MicroBit, and even they're using this circuit playground with Discovery's CS. And this actual circuit playground is actually with a company who does a lot of wearables. They're called Flora, and they're based out of New York City. And I've ordered from them, and they are wonderful. And they've come up with tons of projects. So if you need any kind of wearable electronics ideas, definitely Flora is someone to definitely check out. So I went over what the MicroBit is. It's just a pocket-sized codable computer. It has the LEDs on it, 2 programmable buttons. It does have Bluetooth connectivity. It has an onboard motion detector, so that also leads itself into lots of different things for wearables. And I have had even students playing computer games or little miniature games on the MicroBit, so my middle school students really enjoy that. The Flora is really cool as well. It's a little bit different than the MicroBit. Okay, you've got all those connections on the outside, which you could use the alligator clips with. As a science person and a science teacher and computer science, I love the sensors on there, the temperature sensor, the accelerometer, light. It even has a microphone built in. So those are some of the actual additions on the actual Adafruit or the circuit playground. So those are 2 of the boards that I've used for wearable electronics. And again, with middle school kids, these are definitely pretty intuitive. And again, you could use them in high school, but obviously your project's going to be built out a little bit more, with them. One of the first ones that I'm talking about tonight is a pedometer. I actually have one in front of me tonight. As I was walking around the house, I was wearing it. And all you have to do is basically you're going to program it to program your steps. It's obviously accessing the accelerometer feature on the MicroBit itself. You can see that the forever loop is going to cause it to, whenever you're moving around, to constantly be recording the number of steps. And then it's going to change the number of steps by 1. Again, there's coding under this hood. I tell my students all the time to also, look at underneath these blocks, because that's how we're going to see, real life coding. And again, I've got kids just basically rubber banding it to their ankles. And yes, it will actually measure the amount of steps. And then we could have students throughout the day wearing their pedometers and then coming back in the next day and saying, who walked the furthest, and also doing some graphing and some real world kind of learning, encouraging fitness. So that is a real world application. Okay, a little bit more different than the earrings. Granted, the earrings maybe are sort of a want, but this, so I get that. But the earrings were cool because it's sort of personal. The pedometer is good to encourage fitness, and it's a really simple device. And again, it's wearable. You can see the student just strapped it to the rubber band. Of course, obviously, but I have students that use fitness bands, and I've got them, sewing them on there a little more secure. But this student obviously went pretty simple. Also, like I said, this was the JavaScript under the hood for the pedometer. You can see the shake function is listed there as well. You can see how it's, pause. It has the pause function. So it's really good to actually talk to students about the coding underneath, since we're talking about our code week. The next thing that, it's not quite the iWatch, okay, I realize that, but we're working with middle school kids and we're talking about kids making something. So this actually is a wearable watch that students can create using the MicroBit. You can see all the coding that is listed there on the side. It's quite a bit of coding, and yes, I am the mean teacher. I make the students actually code the whole entire project. And practice and trial and error, because that's what coding is all about. Again, I have the link underneath there. I won't click on that right now, but that is another great project. This was really simple. Obviously, I've had, pieces of sweat material, like sweatshirts, old t-shirts in the classroom, and you're able to just secure that down. And I have kids that just basically sew it with some basic thread. I've also used things like Velcro before. But again, it's also, showing students how they can make something with a purpose and use it for real world. And again, I've had students, sixth graders take this over to technology fair and are really proud with their watch and that they made it, because that's also part of it. Anybody can go out and buy an iWatch, but actually to say that you coded it and made it is really meaningful for my students. Another one that I did not make, that I just found out about, since I was putting this presentation together, is, and I encourage you all to try it. There's a heart rate monitor with the MicroBit that so that you could actually determine your heartbeat. And there's an actual file, and that's something great as well. Basically, it's going to use the accelerometer feature, and with that accelerometer feature, that feature of movement, and it will actually record heart rate. So I have to admit, I have not made that one, or we have not made that one, but that may be something for your high school students to try. So that's a really great project. The Institute of Engineering and Technology, I think someone was actually designing this for their master's, and came up with this project as well. But again, wearable electronics with real life, real world applications. The next one is the circuit playground. So you can see what that looks like when it's lit up. There's our lovely Chromebook, and we are a one-to-one Chromebook school. So my students can work with Chromebooks very easily, and the Ada Flora and the MicroBit, which is really nice that we have those, we have that available. In order to get the MicroBits and the Ada Flora, I was able to write, I've written many grants. I enjoy writing grants because it's quite an accomplishment when you get a grant and get this great equipment that you could purchase. So I was able to get a classroom set of MicroBits. They're about probably about $14 a piece, but for a whole class, so probably about $350. And the Ada Flora run around the same pricing as well. So once you get a set, you're good to go. I also have a lot of students right now, because it's the holiday time of year. We've been doing these projects in our tech fairs in the spring, asking for Christmas presents and asking for these devices as well. And again, the versatility and the ability to build with these devices is really incredible. I mean, I'm just featuring them with wearables with you tonight, but there are a whole lots of other things that you could add them to as well, because they are microcontrollers. This is our lovely wearable jean jacket. Okay, so really simple. We're adding those circuit playgrounds to the jean jacket. This took second place out of probably about 40 projects in the category for innovative technology at our tech fair. That's Olivia wearing the wearable electronic jacket. Basically, when she moved around, because the coding was written so that it would play music with the accelerometer, so you would see the jean jacket playing music. Also, there was a light sensor on there, so when Olivia would walk around or get in different amounts of light, the light sensor would actually have an impact there on that circuit playground. There was a button on the circuit playground too that could actually play music, so the jacket was able to play music as well. And she also had it, I think, also flashing different colors. And I believe at one point too, she was using a temperature sensor on it as well. So the jacket was multifunctional. She really impressed the judges, and it was lots of fun. And again, I mean, obviously that's a project there that maybe the temperature sensor we can definitely apply to real world, but it was something personal for Olivia, and it got her really excited, and I'm actually wearing her jacket this evening, so that was really fun as well. And lots of great positive comments and excitement about the jacket. And it was a really original project, because in that category we didn't see anybody else with wearables, so it was sort of really neat. It's a great idea. It's definitely showing some creativity for sure. Again, this is just very similar to what we talked about with the MicroBit. You can see the blocks are pretty intuitive for middle school. You can see the shape function there. So when it moves with accelerometer, it's going to show that animation. It's going to make that magic wand sound. And if you really want to drive someone crazy, you can actually cause that actual that sound to go forever, but we sort of discourage that. And but our colors with that animation are actually shining, and it was really neat to see that on the coat. And again, we've added these different electronics to the jacket itself. That's under the hood. That's the JavaScript. Again, you could see both ends of it there. Another one I really wanted to talk about quickly is if you want to start getting, you have high school students or you start wanting to get more advanced, this is another type of wearable electronics. It's called Lilypad. It is a conductive thread that you have to sew with. The thread you could buy it on Amazon. It's, again, you want to buy conductive thread because you're making a circuit, okay? And you can see that right there is what was referred to as a watch battery. You're going to insert the watch battery in there. You can see the electronic thread is attached there at the top. You tie a knot. You actually sew through there, and then the LED is attached. You can see how it's a complete circuit, and then it goes all the way around back to the battery again. So that way we're going to light our LED. Also, there Lilypad Electronics also has on and off switches so that you can actually save your watch battery. There's a lot more, you could get very much more complicated with Lilypad, but again, they are a known wearable electronic kind of sewable that you can also get involved with as well as Ada Flora, like I mentioned, the Circuit Playground. They also have NeoPixels, which are little individual pixels that you could also attach to the Ada Flora, and really sort of build it out as well. But Lilypad is purchasable. You could purchase that as well. I have a kit that just came in that I got through a Spark Fund grant that came in with 5 projects. The kit through the grant, I think on Spark Fund, the kit was about $100. So they're going to do, I think, 6 projects. So that's not too bad. And again, I was able to purchase that with grant funds as well. Again, these are some great wearable electronic projects. Hopefully you saw some creativity this evening between the wearable jean jacket, the heart rate monitor, the watch, the LED earrings, LED jewelry. Again, watch out with that solder pen because we want to be careful if we're working with those middle school students or elementary students. You definitely on the elementary level, you can definitely do the cards or with the LED copper tape, and let your creativity shine with wearable electronics. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I have my URL there, and please follow me on Twitter. I love connecting with other educators and learning from others because that's what it's all about, is building community. So do we have any questions, Richard? I think I am completed for I talked about 30 minutes there. So hopefully got all that information in.
Yes, so great job. I took a ton of notes, and actually I'm doing one of those things. I put in the chat, I'm actually doing one of these things with my freshmen next week before break. But so there were a few questions that came in, and I'm kind of just going through them in reverse chronological order, so bear with me.
Which one are you doing? Which one of the projects are you trying?
So we're going to be using a variation on your Christmas card idea. I'll throw out there that Microsoft has a hacking STEM curriculum.
Right.
And in Microsoft's hacking STEM curriculum, there's a project for doing light up paper houses. And so we're doing a modification on that. Same kind of concept, but we're not doing Christmas cards. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
Right.
So they're tiny little solar powered houses is actually what we're doing. So
right. And if it comes down to holidays and things like that in your classroom, because I know not everyone celebrates Christmas, they can be birthday related, obviously. So I sort of encourage whatever card they wanted to make. So keep that in mind, because I wanted to make sure that I, covered all of that as well. So so it was just, yeah, that was lots of fun. It was nice to have them take something home over the break. So, all right, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, well, so David said, jean jacket was amazing, such creativity, thanks. We got a question from Allison who said, is there a built-in speaker on the Circuit Playground?
Is there a built-in speaker? Yes. because and you can definitely hear it. Obviously, if you want to amplify that sound, my students have hooked it up with alligator clips to an actual speaker. They hook the clips to the actual circuit playground, and then actually to, it's one of those speakers that you actually would have to, like I have a set of water speakers that you plug into a computer. It's like the silver part of the prong, and that you'd have to plug it in there and form like a circuit. But the circuit playground is loud enough so that like somebody standing next to you can hear it. So it does have a speaker, but it can't, obviously it's limited because of the small device. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yes, it did. Great. And Allison just asked a follow-up question on that and said, your work is great. When you do these projects with your students, how much do you focus on structures of code, i.e. loops, variables, functions?
In middle school, obviously we talk about snapping the blocks together. We talk about if-then statements. I talk about syntax, the idea of, having the parentheses and the quotation marks. I talk about indentation and why we have that. Again, I like Python the best because this slide that I just showed you back here, it was back over here in the beginning. To me, this is like really profound, and it's really great and teachable. So those are the things that I, focus on. If my students want to go beyond the blocks, so I have 8th graders that are getting ready to go to high school that sometimes will make the comment to me, the blocks to me in 8th grade, I'm getting to be a high school student, but I really want to learn beyond the blocks. But then MIT App Inventor, like I've made apps with that myself as well. So. But and there's nothing wrong with using the blocks, but then there's also kids going, is this real? Like, what does it look like? And I try to show them this. So we do talk about the while true statement, the indentations like I just showed, the actual, removing hello world, putting your name in. What happens if we take the image and we actually put a lowercase I for image with the heart? We're going to throw an error, and it'll tell you what line it comes on. So those are the things I sort of focus on in middle school. Obviously in high school, you probably would be doing, I don't know, Richard, I think you teach high school computer science as well, right? So yep. You may focus on a little bit more, but if you notice there's only like very couple lines of code there, not a whole lot. And we just like analyze that and then try to build off of that. So yeah.
Great.
And then, yeah.
So there's 2 other questions here. And they both came from Jeff, who said, where do you buy all this stuff, with a follow-up of, do you have funding source, grant recommendations?
I have done lots of grants. Publix is a local grocery store here. And every year, all I have to do is fill out a really simple application saying that, I do after school club, like a STEM, I call it Astro STEM because I love astronomy and STEM. So I write it for Astro STEM or my classes. So every year, like clockwork, I apply for that, and Publix gives me $250. So that'll buy you some Microbits. The Toshiba Innovation Grant that is online right now, it's available 2 times a year. And one is in, I guess, August, and the other one, I guess you find out, I think you find out in January, was due November 1st. I wrote a Toshiba Innovation Grant, and I got $5,000 in veneer technology for my classroom. So we do, soil studies, because we have Venus flytraps that grow indigenous here in the wild. They don't grow anyplace else in the world. So I wrote a whole grant about going out and studying these Venus flytraps and, gathering the soil, because it's so unique. It's right down the street from our school. We have this, place where they grow. So, having a unique project and a purpose. So I was able to get $5,000 for that. The Lowe's Toolbox Grant, I talked about having a STEM Maker Day, building catapults out of PVC pipe, Wearable Electronics, EV3 robots, and they were able to fund me $5,000 for that as well. Another community sources, we have what's called a community grant that I wrote for. And if you have an idea, and you have to have an idea, you have to have a budget, like you have to have your items listed, your line items, what they're going to cost, because obviously these people are going to give you money. They want to know that what's going to be spent on, and then they want to know who's going to, get the money. Obviously your bookkeeper, and your bookkeeper is going to help you purchase all these items with these grant funds. So again, I was in the online classroom. This is my 3rd year back in the regular classroom, and I've raised about, in fund and grants, I've done about $20,000 so far. So, and I just write a lot because it brings these amazing opportunities for my kids that they wouldn't normally have if I didn't have this grant funding. So, yeah, the stuff that I'm wearing is grant funded. So, okay, that's a long-winded answer, but thank you for asking.
No, that's a great answer. Maybe you have a career in grant writing coming up.
I don't, I know, I mean, I do get rejections though too. I mean, it's just part of it, you know. I'll get a message in the mail, sorry, you know, we're not funding this. You know, this year, my first 2 years, I think I did better than I did this year. But, you know, if I've got a project idea, I'll just keep pushing it out there. Okay, you deny me, well then I'm gonna apply for the next person that's offering a grant and use the same idea. So I'll keep it on a Google Doc and try to resubmit it to someone else to see if someone will take it. So that's how I do it. But it is a lot of extra work outside of school. So you've also got to balance your time with your family, grant writing, lesson planning, teaching your lessons. So you've got to decide, you know, that's the point too. It's a balance for sure. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, and speaking of balancing family, I have a 3-year-old who's just creeped in who is not sleeping right now. So to wrap this up, can you put up your contact slide one more time with your tiny URL on it so everybody can
Sure. Okay.
so they can find your resources and find you online?
Sure. Okay, where am I? Okay, here we are. So yes, and follow me because I'll definitely follow you back. So, and see what you all are doing, because that's what I use Twitter a lot of the times for, is I'll go on to Twitter and see what other people are doing nationally. So it gives me ideas. So I'm like, oh, wow, this looks great. You know, so that's what I use Twitter for professional learning really, and looking at ideas of other teachers and trying to utilize it. So, and that's been a big help in growing that network. So, but yeah, that's my Twitter following. And if you want to Gmail me, I am at ienjoyteaching@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's
Literally,
fantastic.
the letter I, enjoy teaching, and then @gmail.com. So yeah, so that's my email as well. So
That's great. And it's obvious that you do enjoy teaching, so it's a perfect fit.
it was back in the classroom again. I was at home working out of the house for about, when the kids were like your kids, for about, you know, 7 or 8 years. And once they started hitting middle school age, and also I worked year round. So going back to the school schedule and having Christmas break coming up and summers off and those kinds of things to do other things has been amazing as well. That change in my work lifestyle has been lots of fun too. So I do enjoy that time off for sure.
That's, yeah, and I will echo those statements as well. Well, thank you, Denise, and thank you everyone for joining us for this session. I'll put in a quick plug here that tomorrow afternoon we have another batch of presentations coming up. Be kicked off by Tony Vincent, who will be doing a presentation about making your own icons and graphics. As I said yesterday, I've known Tony for a long, long time, and he always does a bang-up job on his presentations, and I always learn something new from him as well. So you want to make sure you check that out, and that'll be followed by some more hands-on electronics by Art Spencer, who's going to be talking about making your own assistive technologies with Makey, followed by at the end, Brian Hayward, talking about using video as a reflective, collaborative, and data collection tool. So things to look forward to tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Denise. Fantastic job. And we'll see you all online sometime real soon, I hope. Thanks, everyone. And have a great winter or summer for our friends in the Southern Hemisphere. Bye-bye.
Good night.